Hey everybody, it's Mr. Buro from Staten Island Tech. And this Revit video, I'm just going to do a simple explanation about the user interface and where you'd be going for managing your normal workflow inside Revit. Okay, so I have this pre-built, very simplistic house that is one level with a roof and a couple of windows on each of the walls and one exterior door. Just starting off right off the beginning, the center part over here is called a drawing space. That's where you're going to be doing all of your modeling. It is an infinite space, and there's a lot of stuff that normally would be visible here. This is a 3D view, so it's showing levels. On a 2D view, you would be seeing cameras marked there. Those are the elevation cameras that create the elevation views over here. Most of the controls that you're going to end up using inside Revit are found very easily on the ribbon. So this ribbon has controls grouped by style or type. Like these are architectural commands, structural commands, steel-based construction commands, anything that's precast as far as like parts and splitting things and doing a few other weird stuff. The systems inside that you might find like ductwork and plumbing and electrical, insert for a whole bunch of things that you'd be able to import and insert into the program. Annotation is for dimensioning and putting text in places, and a number of other things, including one that we added, Enscape, as an add-in to the program. So these are the buttons that you would see on the ribbon. These are known as ribbon tabs. And these particular parts of the ribbon tabs that you see, like for instance, this is called a build panel over here. Everything that's on the build panel. This is the circulation panel, the modeling panel, the room and area panel, the opening panel, etc. So panels on the ribbon and organized by tabs of the ribbon. Also, to the left, one of the most important items that's on there, this is called a properties palette. So anything that you have selected, so if I select this wall, for instance, it'll identify the item here, and it will show me that where the wall is based on its location, the bottom constraint for the wall, which is level 1, if that's offset from there, if it's attached to anything, top constraint, same thing, attachment and offset, if it's creating a room, whether or not it's a structure element, different dimensions of it, data for imaging, and whether or not you deal with phasing. So all those options appear in here for that one item, and I can click on a different item, a window, and you can see a similar set of options, or this desk and a similar set of options. If nothing is selected, then the view itself has its own properties, which is selectable through that particular area. This item up top is called the type selector. Technically, it's part of the properties box, but in the type selector, you have the option of changing the item that has been selected to a similar type or even a different one, depending on how far you want to go with it. So right now, this is a fixed 36 by 48 window, and I could change that to a double casement window that's 34 by 36 just by clicking this, and you could see that updated right here. And now that's the double casement window, and this has its own type of properties here. Within there, you could also edit the properties that create the object, such as its width and height and things like that, and its materials, which are visible pretty much all throughout Revit within that area of the type selector and properties palette. So it's a very, very powerful area, and it's basically where you're going to be going every time you use an object. And also those object types, once you edit them, can be repeated in several ways. So it's a really powerful particular thing. Right underneath it, you'll see the project browser. Some people tend to be confused and think that what this is showing you are different files, but that is not the case. In Revit, there's only one file active at a time, more or less. It's an RVT file, and the RVT file contains everything that's in the model. So the building that you have, whether you're looking at it in 3D or 2D, is the same file. So if I were to go inside this particular view and delete the windows that are next to the door, then I can go ahead and look in level 1, and I could see here's the door, and I no longer have any windows on the side. But if I undid that, you see they pop up right here. And I didn't even have to go to a different view to undo it. Again, you're just looking at different views of the same project or the same building, which is a really cool feature to have. You'll see on here at the top floor plans, ceiling plans for actually editing the ceilings of those particular levels, 3D views if you've added any, and those are 3D views that show the entire perspective of the home, like this one, or you can have a 3D view generated by a camera that you could find inside the view bar over here. You could actually install cameras and do things like that. These are 2D elevation views, which you'll see come as a result of these particular camera items. So the south elevation is going to have a look at the door and 2 windows over here. So if I click on south, you'll see a 2D view of the south elevation. And these particular areas are very important because in the elevations are where you adjust the actual level markers within the program. And the level markers are a lot more than just a marker where the height is. You will base everything in here on the level markers, and I'll go into that a little bit more in the future. Next, after that, we'll talk about the options bar. So let me go into level 1 floor plan. And if I click on here, you'll see that there's not much popping up as far as options. With nothing selected, I had basically my full set of things over here. But when I click on an item, this converts to like a tab that's specifically about the options for editing this particular wall that I had selected. If I was creating a new wall off to the side, like over here, you could see a lot more options pop up as far as like the default height of the wall, whether it's connected to something, its unconnected height, if there is one, if I'm drawing it based on its center line, which right now I am, and as you can see, the wall is being drawn by its center line. But if I go ahead and switch that to, let's say, the interior face, as I begin drawing the line, you can see that the dotted line is on the interior face, which is pretty interesting how that works. Other things that popped up when I was doing that, whether or not the walls, if I created them, would be chained to each other. I could uncheck that or chain that or check it to be chained. And I could draw them offset to each other or based on a certain radius, allowing joins or disallowing joins, and several other things. So that options bar that comes up is an extremely important set of options that is context sensitive to the item that you're using. Moving on to the view control bar, we have a bar over here, which is very simplistic in 2D. We have the 2D thing with just zooming and rewinding different steps, panning, and such things. And here, this is for zooming over here. So I could zoom into a region, zoom out, zoom to fit, and a few other things. So that's the view control bar in 2D. In 3D, it's far more complex. We have the view cube, as usual, inside Autodesk software, where you can click on the cube and do an orbit. You could click on items of the cube and shoot to different areas that you're known to attach to. Also, if you wanted to, you could use the wheel over here, which has orbit, zoom, rewind, pan, also look, walk, center, and up and down. Up and down does that. It brings your view up and down. Look allows you to look at it like as if you're a person looking with your face, and a number of other things that are there as options. So that's the view cube and the navigation bar that are off to the right. Underneath that, we have the view control bar. This is a very different thing. So right now, what I'm looking at is a 3D view of my drawing, but I'm showing fine levels of detail, and I'm also showing a realistic point of view. If I switch this to just hidden line view, it becomes a black and white thing, but still showing large amounts of detail. I see the brick pattern, I see even the fixtures on the door. If I switch this back to medium, similar view, but like some of the trim was taken away, so now I don't see the fixtures on the door or anything like that. And then if I switch it back even further, I'll see a much more coarse view of it, which in this case, again, doesn't look much different. I can still even see the bricks, which is surprising. Okay, usually leave it on fine detail unless you need to access like certain more broad features of the particular drawing. Other things on here, you could talk about turning the sun on and off, shadows on and off. You could bring up the rendering dialog, whether or not certain items are hidden. Like if I didn't want to see the roof in this view, I could just click on it and right click it and pick to hide it in this view. And then it's gone. But then if I hit this little light bulb, it'll show me what was hidden highlighted in pink. So that's what the benefit of this toolbar is. It allows you to access different things and be able to really kind of have full control of the way one view looks. And this, again, is the view control bar. So it's specific to the view that you're actually in right now. Like if I go to look at my level 1, it's different. This is a black and white view, which is set up. But if I set this up to look consistent colors, you can see all the coloring in here in 2D, and then this one still remains in black and white. That's the view control bar. Underneath the view control bar is the status bar. So if you're working on a command, like if I pick the wall command, it'll ask me to click a start point for the wall. If I begin working on this, it'll say click an end point. So you can see right away that that status bar is telling me quite a few things and giving me options, in addition to introducing keyboard commands to me on the fly. So that's a pretty cool feature to have in that status bar. Kind of like the old command bar in AutoCAD. On the top, you'll see the quick access toolbar, which has the obvious things. It has open and new and save, undo, print. But in addition to that, it has a few other things, like this is for inserting text. This is for going to the default 3D view. You can do a drop down over here for camera views and such things. Thin lines is a particularly important thing. If you have thin lines selected, then when you look at the actual walls here, you'll see that certain lines are thicker than others, and it sort of makes things difficult when you're trying to snap onto things. So you click on this thin lines feature, and it hides the actual thickness of the lines, so you can quickly access things, especially again when snapping onto items. It's a very important particular command to be able to access. In addition to that, we have the modify button, which is pretty much always active. So it allows you to kind of click on things whenever you want. I just use my mouse pointer, and then when I click on an item, the item is lit up to modify, and you can go ahead and do things like with the keyboard. I can modify location, or I could rotate the object with the modify command. I could move it. I could align something to something else. Like if I wanted to, for instance, let me undo that movement. If I wanted to align this desk to the wall, I would just click the align command and click on the edge of the wall, and then click on the edge of the desk, and then it would go ahead and align that desk over there. A number of other things are over here, and that's all in the modify area, which is often active within the program. The only other thing I wanted to kind of show you is the sketch mode option. So I'm going to click a floor and delete it here. So now I no longer have a floor inside this particular thing, which you could see in 3D here. So there's no floor selected anymore. But if I wanted to redraw that floor, as soon as I hit the floor button, the program is actually going to throw me inside sketch mode. And you know you're in sketch mode anytime you see this red X and green check apply. So you're currently locked into working on this command, and you cannot finish this command until you hit the green check. So right now it's asking me to either pick walls to create the edges of my floor or to sketch something. And I can do that with sketching lines or a rectangle. I'll go ahead and use a rectangle, and I'll snap to the inner parts or the inner corners of my walls. You can see those sketches appear in pink. It asks me after I lay down the sketch if I want to associate the floor borders with the wall borders, and I definitely do. That means if I move the floor border at any time, the wall will move, and vice versa. So I've done that. So now I have my floor done over here. I can go ahead and hit the check, and you'll see the floor pop up, and there it is visible in 3D right away. So that sketch mode is pretty useful. If I wanted to go ahead and edit that at any point, I could just hit edit boundary, and I could do this in 3D or 2D. And you can see that I am currently in sketch mode again, and I have to hit the check to finish it. Once I hit the check, I'm out of sketch mode, and you can see I just shortened my floor in that particular area. So that's quite a few things here. Let me review. It's the drawing space, which is this entire area here. We have the ribbon panels on top, the quick access toolbar over here, the view cube and navigation bar over here, the properties area with the type selector, the project browser, which shows you the different views of the same model. This is the view control bar, which allows you to adjust the way something looks inside the view that you're currently in. Status bar underneath it. And I think that's about it. Oh, and sketch mode and the modify button. I showed you the modify button before. And of course, sketch mode if you're editing something that was created with a sketch or creating something from a sketch with a sketch from the beginning. Like stairs is another one, a roof. If I'm editing a wall profile, like if I wanted to kind of change the way this wall looked and put a hole in it, I can do that by just doing that. And you can see that I just knocked a hole in the wall. It's pretty interesting how powerful you can customize almost everything inside the Revit program. You just need to know how. And by doing that, just do some searching online, ask me, go and hit the help file inside the program. There's a million different things you can do. But the first thing you need to do is to know your way around the program. So when they make reference to the ribbon or the project browser or the property window or the navigation boxes and things like that, you need to know what you're talking about. Okay, so good luck and more Revit to come. Thank you very much.